your sign here? What does it say?
It says that the destruction of our tax code, plus the destruction of regulations, plus war, is what has equaled these massive deficits. Now, you've got a lot of people in the Tea Party and other parts in the Republican Party that claim that the problem with these massive deficits is large government and social programs. But that's not true. The actual source of the massive deficits was destruction of our tax code. When the Bush tax cuts, the Reagan tax cuts were implemented, that destroyed the ability to some extent of the government to pay for those services that were essential to the government. Also, the destruction of our regulations. We had a regulation, one of a very important regulation called Glass-Steagall. Now, this is one of the first items in the Occupy Wall Street movement, is a return to Glass-Steagall. Glass-Steagall created a structure for our banking, a regulation for our banking system that was essential. When it was destroyed, the consequences was the 2008 collapse, which cost the government trillions of dollars, in which they had to spend over $1 trillion just bailing out these banks. So the source of these massive deficits really is not what the Republican Party and the Tea Party claim. Obama is sensitive to this to some extent, and as are some Democrats, but there's, I don't believe, a clear sensitivity to this by many Democrats, and certainly the Republican Party and the Republican candidates are not sensitive to this issue at all. They are blaming the victim, essentially, for the massive deficits that we have.
Do you believe that they're going to be sensitive enough, the super committee, to get this $1 trillion deficit, to reduce it by the deadline next week?
I believe the forces of politics are so powerful that the super committee will come up with absolutely nothing. And essentially what will happen is the mandatory limits will be installed in the government, which, to some extent, the responsiveness to the problem of the massive deficits is important. But they could have done it more intelligently if they would have been more clear on exactly what the problem is. And we have been attacking progressive taxation in this country ever since it was instituted by FDR in the 30s. And the last, since Ronald Reagan, Reaganomics, they have even done a greater attack on progressive taxation. And unless they want to look at this attack on taxation, unless they want to look at the destruction of regulations, they're not going to solve the problem. Just that what they're going to do, in fact, is they're going to try to bare bones the government. When they try to bare bones the government, it is going to drive us into another depression. And then they will get nothing as far as solving the deficit problem. They're going to only aggravate it. And they don't seem to be able to understand that either.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts.
You're welcome.
Region listeners, as you can hear, protesters are indeed frustrated. They want jobs. They want answers for taxes, possible taxes being raised. This is the Occupy Wall Street movement. This is Action Day nationwide, and right here in the region in Highland, we are a 99% rally. We're going to continue to talk to people and see why they're here, to hear what they'd like government to do to better the government. We're WJOB, the voice of the region.